divorcing my husband without trying to make it work. My STBHX Eric, 40M, and I, 38F, were high school sweethearts, and we grew up in a small town where the majority of the population was white. Eric is white, and while I'm not a typical-looking white woman, I have enough features that I could be considered white passing. I recently discovered I am mixed race, important later. Eric and I got married after I graduated high school. I became pregnant when I was 26 and had fraternal twins, now 12, EJM and Natalie F. As the twins got older, EJ started to look like Eric, blonde hair, albeit curly and fair skin, and Natalie started to look like me, dark, wavy hair, but her skin would get darker like she had a permanent tan. Eric and I were confused by this because no one in our families had a skin complexion like this. Eric became a cop after college. When the kids were 7, Eric got a chance for a promotion, which moved us to the city. I started to notice that Eric would make prejudicial comments against certain communities of people that I would shrug off because they were not overtly offensive. One of Eric's coworkers noticed a picture of EJ and Natalie, and asked if Natalie was adopted as she had African American features, and suggested that I might have had an affair after conceiving with Eric, as it was possible that twins could be fathered by 2 different men. This planted a seed of doubt. By the time the twins were 11, Eric couldn't hold his doubt anymore and demanded a paternity test. He explained his doubt, so I obliged. The test came back as Eric being Natalie's father, but he would act distant towards Natalie. One day, I was using Eric's phone because mine died to look for a recipe for dinner, and came across a support forum where Eric was convinced I slept with a black man, was making awful comments about black people, and that I somehow altered the DNA test results. I was furious and confronted Eric. He said there was no way Natalie could be his, and demanded another DNA test. I agreed to prove him wrong, and once the test came back, we contacted my parents because I was genuinely confused about where Natalie's features came from because my parents were white. After dancing around the topic, my mom confessed that my dad was not my real dad, and my real dad was biracial. After looking at an old picture, my dad looked white at first glance, but the longer you looked at him, the more you could see his African American side. I happened to not inherit those genes. This seemed to appease Eric, but I could not forget the comments Eric made about black people and told him I wanted a divorce. He apologized and said he couldn't understand at the time, but I told him it was disgusting that that was what he thought about that community, and I refused to raise my children in an environment that fostered and normalized negative thoughts about any community. Eric and my parents tried to get me to rethink my decision and to go to counseling. I agreed to go to counseling, but I am not changing my mind about divorcing him. Update, I'm not sure what you guys mean my mom lead to me. Well, she never outright told me someone else was my biological dad. I never questioned it, so it never came up. She told me she would tell me the truth if I ever asked, and everyone, my grandparents and dad, knew and agreed to tell me the truth if I asked. Not all prejudice is negative, guys. The prejudicial comments my husband made was saying a kid would be great on track after seeing them run, and they happened to be black, or that a kid would be a good businessman one day and they were Middle Eastern. It didn't mean anything to me at the time due to my cultural ignorance. With that, my husband gave me no indication he had certain feelings against other communities, so stop with the "you were okay with him being racist" until it was you. Ugh. When I said he was distant with Natalie, he didn't treat her like dirt. He felt disconnected because he had doubts. She was his and wasn't as affectionate. Otherwise, they still interacted. My husband found out about the Reddit post and was mortified because he didn't realize how his behavior made him look. He also says he appreciates the comments that cut him some slack. Anyways, he booked a session with a counselor at his job, found out that cops have on-site therapists for us to go to. We got straight into the issue. The counselor asked why the comments bothered me so much, and I told her that I've seen so many innocent people suffer from hatred for something they didn't do, and how it makes people act way out of character. The degrading and harmful things people would do and say to others, based on a characteristic they can't control, and treat them like they were less than human. My husband asked if he thinks he hates me and the kids. I told him I don't know. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more stories like this. When it was his turn, he confessed to having an inferiority complex to black men, about how he thought black people were more physically attractive and gifted, and that the girls would have crushes on the black boys, how it hurt that none of the girls would look at them, the white boys. So the boys looked for compensating factors that would make them more desirable. Having money, getting careers, not being involved in illegal activity, etc. And it turned into this ugly thing of why like him when I have this. I was floored. I asked him if he was like this when we met, and he said yes, but that. I never triggered his insecurities because I didn't pay attention to them or talk to them, but it was always in the back of his head. He was worried I would leave him for them, so he started working out, playing sports, and buying cologne to keep up with them. The counselor asked about the comments, and he said that he was looking for validation of his feelings, as far as being good enough. When he considered the thought of me cheating, he couldn't understand how I could choose a menace to society over him that has provided for his family and given us a home. I was numb because I didn't think he felt this way. I told Eric that I want him to write a detailed, heartfelt apology letter to the community he offended. He is not to tell me what it says or show me, but to write it and then post it anonymously. If strangers can forgive him and push him forward to help be better, then I can too. After getting home, Eric wrote the letter, then posted it after proofreading it again and again. He's currently waiting for the comments, and in all honesty, it was enough to make me rethink divorcing him. He's not off scot-free, but I really appreciate his effort. If anything significant happens, I'll update again. Edit. Forgot to include this, but I have not forgotten the comments, and while he gave some explanation, we will talk more in depth about it after this. I did not just magically forget the things he said. The session made me realize he at least has some remorse, so we're starting there. Sequendi edit. The messages are already flowing in. To the people who are saying I'm excusing his behavior, I am not. For the threats, grow up. I do apologize if this will trigger something in people, as I did not mean for that. Eric's behavior is inexcusable, and there is much work to be done for him. Relevant comments. Comment. He owes you an apology too, as heartfelt and sincere as whatever he's posting anonymously. He thought you were of poor moral character, that you were capable of cheating on him, and then passing off another man's child as his, that you were capable of deception enough to somehow alter DNA test results to continue the lie. Someone who could do that is a terrible person, and he thought you were capable of that. OP, he has apologized profusely to me. I didn't accept it at first because I thought it was BS, but after our counseling session, I decided to give him some grace and allow him the opportunity to show he means it. I do want him to address his biases because, while they may have started off as insecurities according to him, they have taken a life of their own from his job. Final update. This will be the final update, because I am done. I didn't read a lot of the comments because a lot of them were terrible, but the good news is you guys were right, and I was a dumbass for believing my husband. I am relieved at the fact racism isn't tolerated or accepted by the majority, despite you thinking I am. After my husband wrote this apology letter, he received support from people telling him that they were proud. He was able to admit his racism and that he was willing to change. I was willing to work through this, seeing that other people could forgive him and blah blah blah. A day or two later, I was using our iPad and received a notification for a text from Mom. I looked at it and didn't recognize the conversation until I realized it wasn't my mom, it was my Mill. I'm assuming my husband forgot to sign out his Apple ID, so it was linked to his account. I read the text that Mile was disappointed that I and my kids happened to be of African American descent and that she didn't expect this for her family, but that we were tricked and we are one of the good ones. My husband said he couldn't believe it either, but it's not my fault. My whore mother lied about laying with one of them and that he was going to make sure our kids don't become one of the bad ones always on the news. My husband kept his attitudes that I previously posted per other texts with his mother. I realized there was no hope for him to change, so I am leaving my husband now. I keep in contact with one of the wives of my husband's ex-coworker who moved some cities away and explained to her everything. They will allow me to stay with them until I can find some place for me and my kids since they have the room. I do have a job, so I do not rely on my husband for my income. Sorry for disappointing everyone when my husband gave me that BS story and crocodile tears. In hindsight, even then, I should not have. I just wanted to believe there was hope my husband wasn't racist, but we live and learn. I will not give an update after this because I am exhausted and am only thinking about my kids. Comment. With that kind of behavior and attitude, divorce is the best option. The husband is proven to be a bigot and untrustworthy type person, and OP needs to protect the kids since he shouldn't be around them, especially with his mindset. I wish OP for the best and for the children's safety. Also, that whore comment is disgusting. My cousin is marrying a cheater, and I can't stop her. My 32F cousin, 34F, Victoria, is a doctor and engaged to another doctor, Victor, 35M. Victor and Victoria have been engaged for 2 years now and are finally getting married. The wedding is planned for this Saturday, religious, civil, and reception. They have a friend in common, another doctor, Emily, 34F, who is going to be a bridesmaid. You can guess where I am going. This past Friday, Victoria had her bachelorette, and we left the city to have a spa day, and then returned to the city to go to party to this fancy club, but we never made it to the club. We returned from the spa town to Emily's home before getting changed to go to the party. At some point, Victoria announced she was feeling sick and locked herself in the bathroom. My first thought, obviously, was that something she ate didn't sit well with her. Roughly an hour later, I managed to coax her out, and she asked me to take her home. I'm meant to be maid of honor, so taking care of her falls to me. I called Uber and took her to my place. There she told me everything. When we were dressing, she was in the kitchen, and she saw a notification from her fiancé on Emily's phone. She'd left it to charge there. At first, she thought it was a surprise planned for her, but then another message came in with a more romantic tone, and another, and another. That's when she got sick and ran to the bathroom. I stayed with her through Friday evening and most of Saturday. Saturday evening, I dropped her at her place after she made me promise I wouldn't say a word to anyone. I agreed because I thought she wanted to end things on her own terms. Sunday and Monday were silent, and everything seemed to be moving forward. Today, Tuesday, was our makeup trial, just the two of us, and she told me what happened with Victor. Victoria told him nothing, and waited for him to fall asleep, unblocked his phone and checked it in the bathroom. She found the conversation with Emily's messages, and began to read back to the top. They've been together for 6 months, and she's pregnant. She's urging Victor not to marry Victoria, and marry her instead. Victoria took a bunch of screenshots but only showed me the one where Emily told Victor she was pregnant, and a few of the ones where she begs him not to marry my cousin. I begged her again to cancel everything and tell our family why, but she insisted there's going to be a wedding and that I should trust her. I'm scared for her. How do I stop her? Update. Victoria convinced her dad and 2 other cousins to go with Victor, his dad, and groomsmen to go camping on Thursday and Friday as a men's things. She also asked me to visit her on Friday with a friend who is a vet. He has a horse trailer, for 1 horse only, so she asked us to bring that too if it's clean and unoccupied. Victor and Victoria moved together when they became engaged, so she's moving out her things. She also said, "Those two are ending happy together over my dead body." The wedding plans are moving as usual. The plan is to take out her things on Friday, and on Saturday morning, the bride's side gets ready at the apartment. Victor returns to his parents' house Friday evening and gets ready there on Saturday. Those who were guessing revenge were right. Now, I'll probably make a post on Sunday to tell you the rest of it. Until then, I'll try to answer comments as best as I can. Update: I know many of you fellow Redditors have been following the story. Thank you for all your support. My uncle, dad, and a bunch of cousins took Victor, his dad, and groomsmen to a town a couple of hours away next to this camping park. This was Thursday afternoon, and after they left, I went to pick up Victoria, and she spent the night at my place. Next morning, my friend, let's call him Jack, came by with his horse trailer and a bunch of boxes. We spent the day packing and cleaning every trace of Victoria in the apartment. The rental contract is in Victor's name, so my cousin won't be affected by leaving. We loaded everything on Jack's trailer, which wasn't much, because the furniture belonged to Victor, but it was all her books, clothing, toiletries, shoes. We left only the wedding things behind. He was going to be waiting for us at the back of the venue because Victoria didn't want to stay after she was done with Victor. I also caught Jack loosening a few light bulbs at random just to mess with Victor. He hates cheaters. Victoria's things are currently sitting in Jack's office, and Victoria again came to sleep at my place. For this, Victoria had asked me to buy and wrap as a present a pair of baby shoes, which I was to keep until the reception. Saturday morning shows up and we left early for the apartment to get ready. The makeup artist and stylists arrive, my aunt arrives, and the bridesmaids arrive. Including Emily, we, Moach and bridesmaids, finish before the bride, and I send them downstairs to the building lobby so we can surprise them with the finished look of Victoria. After she was ready, we went downstairs, and when the elevator doors opened, my eyes went straight to Emily. The other girls were all celebrating and clapping and hugging Victoria. It was just seconds, but I saw her face fall and her eyes get shiny before she composed herself and hugged everyone pretending to be happy. We all took a picture in the garden across the street from the building, and then headed out to the church. We meet the rest of the wedding party there. We do the groom's first look, the pictures, and all that jazz. Victoria sent everyone inside to take places and asked me and Emily to come with her to this little chapel outside to fix something in Emily's dress. That's when Victoria dropped the bomb on Emily. This I am quoting and translating from the video I took, which I absolutely want share. Victoria: I'm glad you're here, and I brought you here, Emily, to tell you that I know all about this affair of yours with my fiancé. I know you're pregnant, and it's Victor's. I've known since Friday evening. Emily, what are you going to do? Why didn't you say anything? Why didn't you do anything? Victoria, because I want us to reach this point. When you see me as a bride about to marry the man you say is the love of your life, to make sure you know and understand that not even pregnant with his baby, he's going to choose you over me, that he wants you for some fun, and he wants me for his life. After that, Emily said she was sorry and ran crying out of the chapel and the church. She was pale and very upset, and I have no idea where she is and I don't care much. Victoria almost broke down too, but I left her to calm down and went to tell the rest of the bridal party that she needed a moment. That Emily felt ill and left, and Victoria got nervous because of it. I went back in with Victoria and helped fix what little makeup and hair were out of place. We went back to the party and the wedding went on. As planned, there is a religious wedding first, then a civil wedding, and then the reception. I noticed Victor counting the bridesmaids a couple of times, but I said nothing. We arrive at the venue. Everyone sits. The bride and groom presented to everyone. There's clapping, meal starts, and after the end of the meal, when toasts are meant to come, Victoria drops bomb number 2. She stands up and asks me for the little gift box. Again, I'm quoting and translating. Victoria, thank you all for being here with Victor and I, for coming to celebrate our wedding, our families and friends. As some of you noticed, one of my bridesmaids, Emily, is not here right now. At the mention of Emily, Victor's smile fell off. Victoria, but I don't want her absence to ruin the party. I prepared a little surprise for my husband, Victor. Then she hands him the little box. He was trembling as he opened it and took out the little baby shoes. I could see faces start to lit up, thinking Victoria was pregnant. Victor was pale as drywall. Victoria, and I want to congratulate him because even when I won't become a mom, he will become a dad of Emily's baby. The silence afterwards was absolutely terrifying, but we didn't stay to see the aftermath of everyone. Understanding what had just happened, we left through the kitchen and got into Jack's car, without the trailer now, and left. Victoria sent the screenshots to the family groups, ours and Victor's, the wedding planning group, and their work group from the hospital. We're in another city in the next state. We sent a message to our families that we were fine and turned off the phones. Comment: this is straight out of some cheesy Lifetime movie plot. We have come to the end of our story. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more stories like this. Tell us what you think about this story in the comments.